Willkommen, bienvenue, and welcome back to the Modding of Isaac with Lyte. Last time, covered the XML files, the PNG files. Anytime you need to just do subtle changes to the number of charges of an item, what items people carry, or how things look, you should be good to go. You just take the thing, modify it, put it where it was in the resources folder that you got from Afterbirth itself. Sound effects are pretty much the same. If you've got a WAV file, you just put them in the SFX instead of the GFX. Should be fairly straightforward. If you want more information, just let me know. I'm willing to show anything you want to see. But today, we're doing the basics of Lua. Any of you that are programmers, once you've got this much going, you should be able to be off and running. There might still be a couple of hiccups here and there, but for the most part, if you're a programmer, you'll be good to go. If you're not, just stick with us. We're going to go nice and slow in this series. If you want more advanced stuff, there's probably going to be people doing more advanced things. This is just for getting ready to go. So if we come in here, we've got our mods, lore mipsum, stuff that was prepared earlier, and my new mod that we'll be working on today. And this time, I don't have to cut away and cut back. I can do it all in one take and just switch over to my desktop, like so. So over here, we've got our windows open. On the right, we've got our good old-fashioned resources area. And my mouse pointer is actually where it's supposed to be this time. This has all the things that they're helping you out with. And over here, we've got my new mod. It's currently disabled, hence the disable.it file. Occasionally, you'll run into an update.it. I'm not certain if that shows up when you've done something horribly wrong, but that's what happened to me. So once we enable the mod, disable.it is going to go away. In here, we've got the resources from the items and players and graphical effects that we did last time, but we're not doing any of that today because, well, Lua breaks the mold. You'd think you'd come into resources, you'd make a scripts folder, and you'd shove main.lua in there. But you don't. You, in fact, stay in the root. You're not even here. You're here. Why? I don't know, but it's true. So instead of going into resources, we're going to stay right here. We're going to make ourselves a new file. You can make it a text document, whatever you want, but we're going to change the name anyway to main.lua. This part's important because that's what it's going to look for. He goes, ooh, did you really want to do that? Yes, I did. Sorry if the text is really small in these boxes. It'll be much better once we get into the editor. So we got main.lua here. It's just a regular old empty text file. We're also going to want to have a different text file open just for reference. Over in scripts, there's one called enums.lua. If you don't want to go to the documentation back and forth, this one will help a lot. So you just want to have that one open, like so. And we're going to open up main.lua. It opened up in a different place. So what we're going to do is drag it back where it's supposed to be. Here we are. Nice blank text file. And enums, these are enumerations. They take things and they put them out 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down the line. You do this such that humans can read your code. Any programmer can make a program that a computer can understand. But a truly great programmer makes a program that humans can understand. And enumerations go a long way to doing that. Because if you're summoning something and you say, summon 43, computer, no problem, summons Monstro 2. But a person looking at it goes, a what? A what? So instead, we'll be summoning entity type dot entity underscore Monstro 2. That's all there is to enumerations. We'll be doing them a lot today because they help to understand what you're actually doing. So, next up, we actually start coding because this is just going to be for reference. We'll look into it several times throughout this modding process. So we come back into our main.lua. So we're going to make ourselves a mod. So step one, we need to define it. You don't want things to be global, so you want to keep them local. Anytime you create anything, try to keep it local. You don't want it wandering all over the place. And then you give it a name. Well, what we're making here is our mod. At least the Lua instance of our mod. So, my new mod. Just stick to your own capitalization conventions. If you like camel case, down, up, down, up, down, up, use it. If you like all caps, try not to use it. It gets confusing and annoying to read. All lowercase is generally okay. However you choose to capitalize, just stick with it. Try not to do all caps. So we have a local my new mod. So our mod, it's a thing that just sits there. Okay. What is it? It is, add the equal sign, comes it is. Okay. So what is it? Well, we register our mod. Register mod. If you look in the, that's not the one, over in the scripts, in main.lua, they define that function, register mod. All it does is it takes the name of your mod and the API version and makes it an object that you can actually do something with. So you're going to register your mod, you're going to take its name, my new mod, and then you're going to give it the API version 1. There probably should be an enumeration for that, but who cares? It's API version 1. It could someday be 1.1, 1.2. It just helps it know exactly when this mod was made. So if they make updates, you can keep it relatively reasonable. Congratulations! You've made your first variable. Why is it a variable? Well, this could change. We could change my new mod to registering some other mod. You shouldn't, but you could. It's just a box you shove something in, and it's local, so it doesn't wander off. That's all there is to that particular part. We have registered our mod. It now does things with Lua. It's awesome. So what do we want it to do? We've got the Necronomicon, so it can kill things, but I don't know. We might not be very good at this game. So why don't we make ourselves immortal? Yeah, immortal sounds nice. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a function. Functions do things. They serve some sort of function. The function we're going to make belongs to my new mod, because it belongs to our mod. It's sitting right there. To indicate that ownership, we're going to use a colon. Those of you with programming experience might be tempted to use a period. Don't. At least not yet. And what are we going to call our fancy immortality function? Well, generally you want to avoid name conflicts with anything else. So I tend to put my name in front of things. You can just use words that aren't going to be used, but also making it part of my new mod avoids any sort of naming conflict. So you really could just call this immortality, so long as you know how to spell it. Spelling's very important when you code. So now we have a function called immortality that belongs to my new mod. Well, you might need more for that function. You might need to give it something to be able to do the immortality. And what we're going to give it actually doesn't matter for this particular mod. You get something that goes to immortality, but we're going to ignore it. We don't really need it. So what I'm putting in there is a placeholder, because what it returns is your mod, as far as I know, as far as I can tell. What it returns to this function is the mod itself. Okay, so we've started a function. We'll give it back itself. Well, its parent, I guess. But it's only begun. You have to end it. If you don't end your functions, they go on forever, they cause trouble. Just whenever you start your function, always end it too. That way, you know it's done. You don't have to come back later. So, we're in here. We want to try to get some immortality for ourselves. So we need a little box to hold ourselves in. So we go again with local. Don't want to go in everywhere. It just needs to be in immortality. We're going to make a little player. Just sitting there. It indicates you. But how do we get you? Well, we ask Isaac to get the player. Unfortunately, you could have more than one player. This has local co-op, so you have to be specific about which player. In this case, 0. You might want to start at 1, but you need to get used to which programming languages and which programs in general start at 0 and which start at 1. Lua likes to start tables at 1. People who wrote Isaac like to start numbering their players at 0. Because if you write in Java or C++ or any of those, they start at 0. Makes total sense to them. Starting at 1 makes perfect sense to other people. So you do what you like, but when you're writing from Isaac, you ask Isaac to get the player, and you get player 0. And this, right here, is a function. Isaac is a thing, like my new mod, and then you're asking it to get player. It's serving a function. It's getting a player and handing it back to you. Which player? 0, just like we handed it this right here. So we got a local player. So we got this variable here. It's got the player in it. So now we can ask it to do things with, for, or about you as the player. That sounds kind of helpful. Okay, so what do we want it to do? So we have our player. How do we implement immortality? Well, you might notice I put in a colon. Whenever you're working with these sorts of objects that you get from Isaac, you want to use a colon, not a period. There's a way to do it with the period, but it's more cumbersome. Use a colon, because then when you say set full hearts, all you have to do is send it nothing. You have to explicitly send it nothing, but you send it nothing. And, yeah, that's our immortality function. My new mod, immortality, send it the thing. Variable, local player, is Isaac get player 0. And then we say player set full hearts. You're just telling you, the player, you now have full health. No matter what health you were at before, now you're at full. That's pretty fun. But we're still missing something. It doesn't know when to do this. So we need to tell it. And now we get into the enumerations we talked about earlier. So we've got my new mod, because we're telling our mod to do something. What we're going to do is add a callback. Callbacks are basically something happens and your mod is watching out for it. And you're telling it, hey, you want to watch out for this thing. And when it happens, do something. So what kind of callback are we adding? Mod callbacks dot MC entity take damage. This is an enumeration. It's a mod callback for when an entity takes damage. Very human readable. So we're saying, hey mod, listen for when we take some damage. Okay? Now, we tell it what to do. Now we do my new mod dot. Not a colon this time. This time it's a dot. Immortality. Make sure you spell it right. Spelling causes no end of trouble. So we've got immortality there. But, again, there could be multiple players, there could be multiple entities, because there are multiple entities. Every single thing that's moving around the screen is an entity. The donation machine, all the flies, all the bosses. Heck, I'm pretty sure the tiers are entities. Anything that moves is an entity. Things that don't might be tile entities. Who knows? They might be backgrounds. But in this case, anytime an entity takes damage, it'll try to do something. But you don't want any entity. You want entity type dot entity player. So every time you have an enumeration, you'll have the, it's not what I would call camel case at front, but you have capitalize each word, dot, and then full caps because it's a constant. Nothing changes. It's said with emphasis. Entity player. And that just returns a number that the computer will understand, but shows to us words that make sense. And that's it. You told it to listen for when an entity takes damage, run immortality if that entity is a player. And save. We are now immortal when we activate this mod. Now, you cross your fingers because programming tends to have bugs. So what we're going to do, we're going to swap ourselves back over to Isaac. Make sure the window is active. We're going to activate my new mod. We're going to come in here, and the true test. Are we in fact immortal? Well, best way to find out. Shove ourselves into a portal. Hey, look! We're immortal. We can take all the damage we want. Ain't nothing they can do about it. Now, as you can see, our function is run before we take the damage. So we get set to full health, and then they deal the damage to us. If there was a champion here, they deal the full heart. We'd be down by 1. So we're not truly immortal. You'd need something else to help you out with that. Like if we were at 1 heart, champion could still kill us. But this entire thing, well, you need practice. You need to type these things. You need to not copy and paste them. You need to do it for yourself. And so, what we're going to do, we're going to do a little bit extra. We'll do something more just to get your fingers going, get you thinking about what's going on. So we're going to come back over to our code. Let's get that lined up. One other thing that I didn't mention before. This indentation scheme, where you put the content inside a bit, it's not absolutely necessary, but any programmer will be like, it's absolutely necessary. Because you can see very clearly, you've got your function, and they've got your end. They have to match, and this way you can easily see that they do. And if you're using Notepad++ like I am, then you can collapse them on down, such that you can get all sorts of things on the screen all at once. So we're now immortal, but it's not quite all powerful enough. So let's make ourselves all powerful. So what we're going to do is ask Isaac to spawn something. We're not going to spawn an enemy. We're going to spawn an entity. But which type? Entity. Type. Now what are we going to do? Entity underscore pickup. Pickup is the word they use for all the tiny things that you pick up off the floor. Okay, so which type? Pickup variant. Man, if only I could spell. Variant. Pickup little battery. Don't know why they're little and they're not just, oh, because the battery is the item, the collectible. These are little batteries. So we got that pickup variant. Now, the next one is a sub-variant, because the things you can spawn, they could go deeper. So, for example, keys. There are multiple types of keys. Bombs, multiple types of bombs. In the case of batteries, there's no variety. At least not yet. So, I'm not sure what needs to go here. I'm just going to put a 1. Could be a 0. I don't really know. Haven't really tested it yet. Someday, science shall prevail, and we'll find out if that does anything. Next up is the position. Where do you drop it? So we're going to put it at the player's position. Player.position. Every time you get this dot, it's a signifier of ownership. So entity player is owned by entity type. Immortality is owned by my new mod. The colon is a special thing for functions, and it's when you're sending it itself as the first thing you're sending. So player colon set full hearts is the same as player dot set full hearts and send it player. It's just nice, friendly shorthand. I'm saying that for the programmers. If you didn't follow, you don't need to. Not yet. So we send it player dot position. And next up is velocity. Player dot velocity. The capitalization of this, I think, matters. And they use capital letters for all of the various attributes of the things that you're working with. So player dot position and player dot velocity. Okay, and then the last thing that you put in is who made it. I'm not sure why this matters, but I think it's for triggering other sorts of things. So in this case, we're just going to say that the player spawned it. If we had a familiar, we could have the familiar spawning it. If it's an enemy, we can have them do it. For now, we've got the player. We might as well use them. And in that one line, we've made it such that every time we take damage, we will also drop a battery. Pretty cool, eh? So we're going to come back over into Isaac. You probably don't have to cycle the mod like this. You can go into the debug console and reload your mod. I just like doing it this way for now, just because I know that it works. It's saying it's Maggie. Oh, because they were all off when we started the program. C'est la vie. We'll eventually get to the root of this loading issue, but that day is not today. So we're starting Maggie back up. Not sure why the music's gone. We're going to come over here, try to take some damage. Oh, we got a battery charge. Let's destroy them. Pick one up. And if you noticed, if we're moving while we take damage, the battery charge moves too. If we're standing still, it just drops right at our feet, because we gave it our velocity. So if you want something that fires batteries, you can. So if you wanted to make a weird challenge level where you've got enemies that spit batteries, and if your item is ever charged, you take damage, you can do it. I don't know why you would, but I mean, programming isn't about would, it's about can. You can do it, so why not do it? Sounds like a great plan. Okay, did we actually mute the music? Apparently we did. And so this has been just a brief introduction to callbacks and modding, just basic Lua type scripting, and this is enough to get you started. If you go scrounging around in the documentation, you can find the other enumerations that will get you the other things that you can do for callbacks. So if you go back to enums.lua, the callbacks are right at the top. All right, should probably show you that. You just go right to the top of enums.lua, you got all these callbacks. So you've got NPC updates, so when Monstro's hopping about, you can check what he's doing. Post update, post render, and post player init. Post, I think that's pill effect update, but I don't know. Player effect update. These happen after something else has been done. Use item, use card, use pill. Those are the keys to making new items. Familiar update and familiar init when you get them and they do things. Evaluate cache. I'm not sure when that happens and what it does. We'll get into that eventually. And here we are. Entity take damage. So you can play around with these if you want. I'm going to be looking into them because the next episode is likely making an item from scratch. So we're going to make the item from scratch, and we'll at least modify an image. We'll put in some Lua to make it do something fun. And yeah, that should be the episode. This one, it's taken longer than I kind of wanted, but you get a lot under your belt. And if you didn't make it this far, you're not listening to me anyway. But either way, I will see you in the next episode of the Modding of Isaac with Lyte.